What's up, everybody? It's Chase from Chase's Workshop, and in this video we're going to revisit the inflatable fix that I did about a year ago, somewhere around there. When I made that video, I didn't realize there was going to be that many people that actually watched it and enjoyed it and used it to help fix theirs. And I'm really glad I got to help you guys out. There were a lot of things in that video that I should have went over that I didn't go over because I didn't realize that many people were going to actually watch it. So in this video, I want to go back over this, like I said, and one thing is that I want to go over how to size the LEDs for your power supply, what type of lights to get for your power supply, and different things like that. Now, one thing that I didn't go over in the last one that I should have, like I said a while ago, is that when you're getting lights for this guy, you need to make sure that you're getting the right lights, voltage-wise, okay? Now, this power supply on the back of it right here, it says what voltage it is. Now, this thing always steps down AC voltage to DC. There is power supplies that step down to AC voltage. You're probably not going to see one in an inflatable, okay? Those are usually for other things, but you never know. Now, one way I want you to be able to, I want to show you how to determine what power supply you have is I'm gonna flip this camera around right quick and show you. Now, if you look right here at the top of the power supply, you can see that we have some. So if you're buying a light, LED light, and you're on Amazon, you're looking for one, you need to find one that is powered by 12 volts. If you look on the back of your power supply and this thing says 5 volts, you need to find an LED that will run off of 5 volts, if that makes sense. Now, the other important number here is this 1.0 amps. Anytime you're dealing with power supplies, if your inflatable has two or three lights in it, and the power supply is rated at 1 amp, and you decide, hey, I want to put 5 lights in it, you're going to overpower your power supply. And what that's going to do is it's going to end up burning up your power supply for one, or it could even tear up something else. And so I just would make sure that you do not overpower your power supply. Normally when you buy a light, they're going to say on it if it how many amps it pulls, and just add those guys up, figure out how many amps your fan pulls, and add them all up and make sure that you're not over this number. Now, this number can be way over your other number. So say you added them all up and you're at 0.4 amps and you got a 1 amp power supply, you're fine. You just want more amps being supplied than you're using, okay? So, to recap, make sure you know what voltage you got here, and then make sure you know how many amps you have. Now, with that being said, this is probably a good point for me to tell you that if you're not comfortable messing with electronics, I would say don't attempt this, or find somebody that is comfortable with doing it, and get with them, let them teach you some things about it, or watch you a million videos on YouTube and learn as much as you can about it. One thing I want to make sure is that everybody's safe doing this, because this stuff, I mean, anytime you're messing with electricity, it can be dangerous. Now, these power supplies are cheap as dirt. I mean, they're made in China, they're junk. And plus, not only that, they went to the lowest bidder in China, so they're really junk. All right, so these things are, like I said, they make probably 1 billion of these a year, and they're junk. All right, okay. Now, just like you, last year when I got done with my inflatables, I watered them up, threw them into a bag, took them out into my shop. Took them out into my storage shed, and then this year went out there to get it, and guess what? There was 1,000 ants all over my inflatable. So I had to take this guy outside, get all the freaking ants off of it, and then when I brought it in and plugged it up, it didn't work. It's deader than a nail. So I got it plugged up and nothing, nada. So anytime that happens, if you plug it up and nothing happens, more than likely this cheap power supply is the problem, okay? So I'm going to start here, and normally you always start at your power supply, or you always start actually at this right here. Make sure you've got your 120 volts at your plug. Okay, I've got my 120 volts at my plug. I plug this in, nothing happens. Okay, well then now I'm going to go. What's next? Right here. I'm going to check this guy and see if we have any voltage. I'm going to do that by sticking my tongue. I'm just kidding. Okay, I've got my meter here, and if you look at the meter, you can pretty much see I can do voltage AC right here. and I can do voltage DC. And I've got, you know, stuff for like ohms, all that crap. You can get worry about that stuff. All you need to worry about is voltage AC and voltage DC. If you're going to check your voltage at your plug, you're going to use voltage AC, which would be this guy here. If you're going to check this guy, make sure you're set to voltage AC. And I'll just show you. You should get 120 volts at your plug. And I've got 121.3 volts. So we're good there. I know I've got power there, so I should be having a connection between here and here. Now, I'm gonna plug this guy back in. I've got it disconnected here. If yours doesn't have this quick connect like this one does, you can take the wire and you can split this guy, and or you could even go in here to where it hooks into your fan and see if you can find a spot to get a connection on it. If not, what you can do is you can pull these wires apart. Say you can. Pull these wires apart here, like so. Strip them back a little bit and stick your probes on there and see what kind of reading you're getting, okay? So now that we've checked our AC voltage, we need to check our DC from our power supply. So I'm gonna go over here to voltage DC. One thing to do that I normally do a lot of times is I always go to this continuity checker when I cut the thing on and just make sure that I get a beep when I'm connected together. And all that does is check, make sure that all these wires that have been watered up in my toolbox and everywhere else, that I haven't lost connection. And I'm sitting here thinking that this thing doesn't have any power, but it's just because I don't have a connection here. Voltage DC. I'm gonna take this guy, unplug it. I'm just gonna plug it down into those two little holes down in there. I'm gonna plug them into that and see what kind of, see if we're getting anything out of it. I'm going to plug it back in. Let's see if I'm getting any power here. I am getting 0.1 millivolt. So I've got something going on with my power supply. Just as I suspected. So, guess what? I've got a power supply from my shop that, like I said, I've got 1 million of these things. Or not 1 million, but 20. And I'm going to use it. Now this guy here, if you're buying if you end up having to buy a new power supply, wall wart, whatever you want to call it, it's what people call these wall warts. Make sure that you go off of what we talked about earlier, your voltage. This is a 12 volt power supply, so I'm going to be looking for a 12 volt power supply to replace it. The one thing that you want to make sure also is that you at least get the rated amperage of the one that you have. So this one is a 1 amp like we talked about. I want to make sure this one is at least 1 amp, if not more. And you can always overkill the amperage. This one is 1500 milliamps. You divide that by 1000 and that'll give you amperage. So the 1500 milliamps would be 1.5 amps. So this is a bigger power supply than this guy, which is fine for the amperage. Just make sure that 12 volts is the same too. Hope I'm not being too confusing with all this, and if I am, just leave them in the comments. I'll take my lashings. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wire this guy up into where I just disconnected here. Okay, so where I did this here, I'm gonna cut this guy and we're gonna wire this into it. Okay, so I got my 2 wires. This one's coming from my power supply and this one's coming from my inflatable. Now, one thing to consider here is a lot of times you can look on here and you can see one of these wires has a little white dash on it, and normally that is the voltage, and then the other one is just black, so I'm going to assume that is my ground. Okay, I'm just gonna assume it here. All right. So I just got them kind of spliced together just to make sure that it works. And I got a freaking fly in here. I hate flies. So, like I said, I've got the black striped one from the inflatable connected to my power, and then I've got the ground connected to the ground. And we're going to plug this thing up and see if it works. And it works. Okay. Now, one thing to consider on this thing, if I reverse these two, I'm just going to show you. So if you're having the same issue, if you reverse these two, it's not going to work as like it's supposed to. Okay, so I'm going to take it. I'm going to put the black with the white stripe on the ground, and I'm going to connect the other. Well, I want to connect the other. So basically, what it is, I reversed the wire. So I've got it reversed from what I just had, and we're going to plug it up. Nothing. Can't hear anything. So if you do this and you plug it up and it still doesn't work, make sure that you have the right polarity on these wires. So I'm going to switch it back now. We're going to take the black with the white stripe on it right there. We're going to take it to our power, and we're going to take our ground to our black. So now we're back the way we were. Got my meter off, plug it up, and we got power. There we go. We fixed it. Yay! Now, one thing that I wanted to go over right quick is some questions that I had about the other video. One person asked about what kind of wire stripper do you use. Normally I just buy one of these guys here. It does all kinds of different wires, so you can take this guy, you can cut it, start with the smallest one. If that's not, if it or the second one, you just snap it over it, pull it, you got a new wire. Same thing there, pull it, you got a wire. And on that one I was using the 18 gauge. If you look on the back of it, one will say AWG, and then the other one I guess is millimeters. I was using the 18 gauge, so that's probably 18 gauge wire. One other subscriber mentioned using these guys right here, and they're basically butt connectors to connect it instead of, because on the last video I did some soldering where I used solder to do this. And I know a lot of you guys may have never soldered anything before, so I thought his suggestion was a really good idea, especially for people that maybe don't like soldering or don't want to, have to buy a $100 soldering iron to solder with. So these guys right here, I'll put a link in the description where you can find them. They're just telephone wire connectors. And basically all they are, if you look in there, all it is a little piece of metal. And when you press this guy, it basically goes over the wire and makes a connection to the other wire. And the way you use these guys is, say I want to connect, my black with white to my power. If I want to connect these two wires right here, what I'm going to do is, you actually don't even have to cut these guys. Basically just leave them like that, okay? And what you're going to do is, you're going to take it, and there's two holes. You're going to put it in each one of those holes, and make sure it goes all the way to the top of the back. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, like that. See how the black wire is going all the way to the top? You see it there? See it go all the way up, and the white wire's in the same. And then all you got to do is take this orange tab here and press down. You can even take a pair of pliers if you want to and press it a little bit harder, and just try to make sure that it's flat in there. And hopefully that made a good connection. If not, we'll go a different route. Then I'm going to do the same for the ground. I'm going to cut this off because I don't need it. I'll find another one of these. It's here. Right there. Alright, we're going to go all the way to the back. For some reason, that wire does not want to go in there. There it goes. Okay, it's in now. And then this one's got the bare ground, so I'm going to probably get some heat shrink and put over these. All right, let's see if that worked. Ta-da! So we're good. I had to bust my zipper off of this thing to get it to do. There we go. Ta-da! I gotta pee. Okay, now I'm gonna go back and check and see what I had some people have asked about this thing. Here they are. They're holding up good. I'm still just used the actual plastic or the sticky stuff on the back of those lights to stick to the old lights, and like I said, they're working good. They're still holding on really, really good. And remember too, on these lights, that you can wire these guys up backwards too. So if you plug your lights in and they're not coming on, make sure to flip them. And before you connect them, just stick them together and see if they work. And then if they don't, reverse the polarity. And then whatever that polarity is, it should follow on to the next light, okay? And like I discussed before, just make sure that you get the right lights for your power supply, okay? Somebody asked about this fan. and they said that their fan's not working. Where can you find it? I want to say I found a couple of these on eBay. And when you're buying one of these fans, just make sure, just like the power supply, or the lights and the power supply, make sure that you have the right voltage. 12 volts DC, and this thing says 1 amp, which I doubt this thing pulls an amp, but if it does, then that might be why the old one burned up. You want there to be more amps supplied by your power supply than your actual inflatable is using. So that makes sense. So if this thing's supplying 1.5 amps and I'm only using 1 amp, then I'm doing really good with this power supply. Now, if this thing here only supplies 1 amp, and according to this from factory, this thing uses 1 amp, then this thing is overpowered from the get-go. Okay, so more than likely, if you have to change your lights in this guy, you're more than likely going to have to end up eventually changing your power supply. Good news is you can buy these guys on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description where you can find ones. Just make sure, whichever one you're getting, that you get the right voltage and the right amperage for the one you're replacing. Okay, does that make sense? Hopefully it does. And I would always go higher on the amperage. So this one says 1 amp, make sure you get more. Make sure you get it 1.5 amp, 2 amp, whatever you want. You can get a 3 amp if you want to. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that it's more than what this thing supplies. Okay? So like I said, you can find these guys here on eBay. There's not a lot to these things. Basically, all it is a little motor in there, and it's blowing a little fan. You can probably actually, I don't know, we might tear this thing apart and see what the motor looks like, see if we can find just the motor. Yeah, let's do that. Let's tear it apart. Okay, so I pulled the fan apart, and literally this thing is like glued on here, so I can't even get to the motor. But I did do some searching on here to see if I could find these fan motors. I'll get the same back together. And all you need to do is make sure that you search. You can search this part number right here, this model number, and that should get you something similar to it. Now the way this guy hooks on here, very simple. As you can tell here, it's just a zip tie. You can cut the zip tie. When you get your new motor, if it comes with the same bezel and everything on the front of it, you can just attach it that same way. You might even be able to pull this part off like I did there and then put the new one into that and work. Now I looked on Amazon, and there is, for the same motor as this, but like I said, it doesn't have the same hookup. So you might have to modify where this guy hooks into a little different. But like I said, it's just going to be kind of unique to your inflatable that you have, what fan you have, and what's the easiest way to do it. I'm going to say you could probably use the zip tie again like that. You could cut this guy out and just zip tie it around the new fan motor to make it work. There's a bunch of different things you could do with that. So I'll put a link in the description to a couple of these fan motors. Some of them, like the one that I searched here, was 12 volt DC squirrel cage brushless fan motor, and our brushless blower fan, and I just found it by searching that model number there, and it's $14.99. So I don't know how, I guess I should say how cost effective that is, as if, you know, this thing is $20. Do I really want to spend $14 on a fan motor for it? So it might be to the point where you're like, forget it, I don't want to do that. And I want to say too, on eBay you can find these motors a lot cheaper. Like I said, as long as it's 12 volts and it's the right amperage and the right voltage, you could literally use any blower fan motor that would work for it. So that, like I said, that might be a cost-effective way to do it. Whereas, you know, before, you don't want to. If this is a $100 inflatable that you bought, then you might want to look at spend $14 for that. And there's also right here is a replacement 1 amp fan blower with Jimmy air blown inflatables. It's $29 on Amazon, and it's basically the whole kit, everything. So it might be something you want to look at. But like I said again, it'd be kind of hard to spend $29 on a $20 inflatable. You know what I mean? But anyways, and there is probably a way to get into this motor and pull that actual motor out, but I'm pretty sure the thing's epoxied into this blower cage, and you know, if this fan ever goes out, I might do a video on it. If you've got one that's got a fan that's burned up on it, and you would be willing to send it to me and let me tear it apart and see what kind of motor's in it and things like that, I'd be glad to. Just leave that in the comments and send it my way. Back to these lights. Like I said before, just make sure you're getting the right voltage light, 12 volts, for a 12 volt power supply. And then make sure they're not over amping the power supply. And the way you can check that is if we go to the actual lights themselves. All right, 12 volts LEDs. This is the one that's on my, when you click on it, it's the ones that is on in my description. And if we look at them and go to the information, we see right here it says LED injection modules. Input voltage is 12 volts DC. The power is 30 watts per string, and there's 20 lights on that string. Okay, 20 lights per string. So if we take 30 watts and divide that by 20, each light's 1.5 watts. We convert that to amps. So to convert that to amps, we've got to divide the wattage, divide it by the voltage, and that should give us our amperage. So we said 1.5 watts divided by 12 equals 0.125 amps per light, 3 light section. So we're good on that. These things do not use a lot of power at all. So just make sure, and I know a lot of people have put these guys in there, and if you put them in backwards, they're not going to light up. They're going to actually not work. Okay, let's just demonstrate it. Let's just do it. Okay, so I've got that one. All right, so before if I hook these guys up backwards, I'm not getting any light. I've got them hooked up backwards. All right, now I'm going to flip the wires. Now I've got power. So just like I said, make sure that if you plug these guys up and they're in the wrong polarity, these LEDs are not going to work. Okay, just make sure you plug them in the right way. Now I'm going to use I'm going to use the little butt connectors again to connect this again. So I've connected it back up with the connectors. And we're good to go. Now, one other question too I've had is that, you know, when you're connecting more than just one of these guys, how do you do it? If I can find another light, it's in here somewhere, right there. So, I've connected to this one. I've got the gray coming back out, and all this is doing is going through here, and it's just doing it to where you can wire these guys into parallel or series. So this gray comes out, I send it back to this wire here with the gray stripe on it, just like the one that's connected here, and it just follows all the way back up to this light. And the gray goes to the one with the dark gray goes to the one with the gray with stripes on it, and the other one goes to that one. And then this one is connected together. It's just, I've got these two just pinned up here. They're not connected to anything. It's basically a dead end. I'll just show you. I mean, the wires are not connected at all. So your last one is going to have something similar to that. And you can take, like I had some heat shrink over it to just kind of protect that connection from weather. That way you ain't gonna do it. So let's go over some questions right quick. And guys, if you have any questions at all about any of this stuff, leave them in the description and we'll go over them. I'll go over them again if I have to. All right, Megan Xavier. Sorry if I'm not saying your name right, Megan. She said, you know, that she did this, and she said using the meter, she checked it with the meter. It says, I've confirmed that there is power to the power supply and there is power coming out of the wires past the fan, but the fan isn't coming on. It was working immediately before I cut the wire after the fan, also not powering the LEDs, but I still think I may be connecting them incorrectly. Hopefully this helped you out with that, Megan. If you need, like I said, the easiest way for me to look at it would be you to send me some pictures of it so I can kind of see what you got going on there. And if you want to, you can send those to chase@cwkshop.com and just send me some pictures of it, and I'll look at them and then maybe get back to you on that. But hopefully you got it fixed by now. I hadn't heard back from you, but if you have, good. If not, you know. Mike says, thank you, just updated our October inflatables and boy do they look great. We'll soon do November and December. Good deal. Yeah, Rick 83400 says, great idea using those LEDs. I have been using landscape lighting LEDs for a few years now, but have had an issue with blowing the power supply. Your idea seems to be a better solution for the power consumption. I would suggest instead of soldering the wires, try using foam wire connectors. So he's the one that Rick 83400 gave the ideas on these guys here, and like I said, they work great. You don't have to solder. They're supposed to be waterproof, and even if, you know, where I've got this power supply plugged up, I'll probably put something over these wires here just to be safe. I'll probably put, especially since that one's ground or is a bare ground, I'll probably put something over this to protect it from the weather. You know, but that's a great idea, Rick, and I really appreciate it. Random Nonsense says, man, I really wish I had run across this video earlier this month. Our inflatables have been dim as heck all month. I thought we were going to have to replace them. Now I'll just repair them for next year. Good deal. I'm glad that's helping you. Eric Wellen asked me 3 weeks ago. He said, hi, curious to know how the repairs held up. I'm going to assume you haven't tested since boxing them away last winter, but that'd be a concern as well. I repaired 2 sets for Halloween last year with a similar technique, but when I fired them up last week and they were dead again. So was mine, and that's normally going to go back to this guy right here. These power supplies, like I said, when they build these things, they ship out all these parts or they get bids on, they take the cheapest bid they can get to make these guys, and these parts are just really, really junk, okay? This power supply is junk. And like I said, you start putting brand new lights in it that are actually efficient, pulling more power and things like that, you're going to burn these guys up, and they're probably going to go out quick. And these things are more than likely way underpowered to begin with, okay? 3 weeks ago, Kimberly Malabera, hope I'm saying it like I said, I hope I'm saying y'all's names right. She said, I need to know where to get those LED lights. I have several inflatables that would benefit, but you never mentioned it, or I might have missed it. Please let me know. Kimberly, in the description to this video, go down there, and if you click on, I can't remember what it says exactly, but it says LED modules or something. Click on that, and it'll take you to an Amazon link that will show you those lights. But like I said in this video, make sure you're getting the right lights. You know, make sure whatever voltage is on your power supply, that you're getting the right voltage lights to use, okay? Okay, this is one that I wanted to go over. Lacey Parnell asked, hi there, just wondering how I open an inflatable up that doesn't have a zipper, and on the motor I don't see any screws to undo. Do I just try to pop it off? I'm scared to break the fan motor part trying to open it up. Thanks for the great videos and any tips you have. All right, Lacey, on this one here, I'm going to assume that more than likely they're going to be all similar. There's probably a zip tie that is holding that guy on there. And if you look right here, I just showed it a while ago, but if you didn't see it, if you look right here on this fan where it goes over the bezel, there's a zip tie. Now what you might have to do from the outside is you might have to actually stick something in there and try to find that spot and clip it somehow. And once you clip it, you can put a new zip tie in there and zip it back in. I'm just assuming that's probably how it's hooked in there. It could be glued, and if that's the case, then you might try to heat it up with something maybe like a hair dryer or something, see if you can heat it up and loosen that glue up and get it apart. Otherwise, you're going to have to either pull that fan motor somehow and hopefully not destroy it. And if you rip the bag or something, you might could glue it back together with some double-sided tape or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what would be a good thing. I'm going to have to figure something on mine because my zipper busted on mine. I couldn't get this zipper off and I'm having to pry it off to get the thing out. Filer Girl said, finally a video that addresses my question, but this is a skill set I do not have. Thank you. And that's what I was saying in the beginning. I want to make sure that you guys are safe doing this stuff. So if this is something that you don't feel comfortable doing, don't do it. But you can normally somebody can find somebody that they know that wouldn't mind helping you with it. Violet Pup said the lights are not on Amazon anymore, and yeah, it is for another one. I don't know if something messed up or whatever, but I just checked them a while ago, and they're still on there. But like I said, that's just kind of a reference of, hey, this is the lights that I'm using. Always make sure that you're getting the right voltage and things like that. Brian asks, what if the lights you're connecting has wires on each end? I've tried multiple connections and none of them seem to work. That could be what you might have is you might have a variable a light. Now, I'm assuming that it's not a light like this, Brian, where you have two on one side and two on the other, because basically this is the follow through. But a lot of your lights that you have that are LEDs that are multicolor, you normally have 4 wires going to them. One will be red, green, yellow, and then one will be ground. And the way those guys work is a lot of times the power supply, they're kind of smart lights. So the lights are actually getting a certain amount of voltage to red to give a little bit of a red color, and then you get different colors out of that. Now to get white out of that, if I'm not mistaken, you're going to hook all 3 of those together and the ground separate. So you would have all 3 of one wire connected together with 1 wire to ground, and that should give you a white light. If that sounds like too much though, just order some of these guys here on Amazon and use them instead, okay? Victorious1 says, can I use butt connectors on my positive and negative LED lights instead of soldering them together? Yes, these guys right here, like I said, are working good. I'm gonna put the link in the description where you can get them. Well, all right, guys, that's about it for the video. If you have any questions or comments, as always, put them in the description. Send me an email, chase@cwkshop.com. I'll be glad to help you out. If you want to, send me some pictures of what you've got. If you're having an issue with how something's wired, it's hard for me to diagnose something through a chat where you can't share pictures and things like that. Where if something I could get a picture of it, I might tell you, hey, this is what you've got going on here. So guys, if you have any more questions, leave them in the description. I hope I helped you guys out. I'm glad we're getting close to Christmas. It's probably my favorite time of the year, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And the way this year's gone, hopefully we'll have a good Christmas and a good Thanksgiving and all that good stuff. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a like. And if you liked it, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.